If you're watching on Legacy of Survival, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now, because this episode goes deep into a set of forgotten World War II-era self-defense tactics that ordinary civilians once relied on. These aren't movie techniques or flashy martial arts tricks. These are real-world responses developed for shopkeepers, farmers, nurses, factory workers, and messengers who had to protect themselves in chaotic wartime environments. What you're about to learn comes straight from field manuals, resistance training notes, declassified OSS material, and eyewitness accounts. It's the kind of knowledge serious history buffs rarely get in one place, and it's the kind of practical wisdom today's world still benefits from. The first tactic worth reviving is understanding distance and timing the way World War II civilians were trained to. Civilians were taught not to rely on strength, but on knowing when to move. They practiced stepping off the line of an incoming grab or strike, not blocking it head-on. For example, if someone reached for a civilian's arm or coat, they were taught to shift laterally while pulling their arm back in a tight arc, breaking the attacker's grip through motion rather than force. The practical modern application is straightforward. If someone grabs your wrist or clothing in a tense situation, don't freeze and don't yank backward. Step to the side as your arm circles inward toward your chest, using leverage the way wartime instructors emphasized. It requires zero strength and works because you're moving where the grip is weakest. The second tactic is using the environment as an equalizer, something heavily emphasized in resistance training. European resistance groups taught civilians to map escape paths, identify choke points, and use obstacles to slow down threats. For instance, they were trained to angle toward narrow alleys, stairwells, or doorframes where a larger opponent couldn't maneuver easily. Today, this applies when you're parking, entering a building, or navigating crowded areas. You don't need to become paranoid. You just adopt the wartime habit of noticing exits, barriers, and safe spots without calling attention to yourself. World War II civilians survived not because they were stronger, but because they treated awareness as a daily habit. The third tactic is controlling an aggressor's balance, a skill borrowed from military combatives but simplified for everyday people. Instead of trying to overpower someone, civilians were taught to break posture. A common example recorded in training notes was pushing an attacker's shoulder diagonally while stepping behind one of their feet. This didn't throw them violently, it simply disrupted their stance long enough to escape. The key principle is that balance is more important than strength. In modern settings, if someone encroaches aggressively, shifting your angle and gently redirecting the line of force can create enough space to move away safely. It's subtle, but that's exactly why World War II civilians relied on it. The fourth tactic is the wartime principle of targeted pressure, not striking. Most World War II civilian manuals discouraged punching because, well, it injured the defender more often than the attacker. Instead, they used quick, precise pressure to sensitive but safe targets like the back of the hand, the forearm near the elbow joint, or the upper chest near the collarbone. These aren't destructive techniques, they're discomfort-based cues that create momentary disengagement. For example, pressing your knuckles into the attacker's forearm while twisting out of a grip can loosen even a strong hold. Modern self-defense instructors still use this principle because it's simple, effective, and doesn't escalate a situation unnecessarily. The fifth tactic is mastering verbal command presence, a skill often overlooked in modern discussions but central in World War II civilian training. Civilians were taught to use steady, low commands to project confidence without provoking further aggression. The tone mattered more than the words. People under occupation learned that a calm, grounded voice often dissuaded opportunistic threats. Today, this translates to keeping your voice even, avoiding high-pitched panic, and speaking in short, controlled phrases when you need to set boundaries, whether with a stranger in a tense moment or someone invading your personal space. World War II trainers understood that the human voice, used correctly, is a self-defense tool. The sixth tactic is using body positioning to create natural shields between you and a threat. During World War II, factory workers, couriers and civilians travelling in unstable regions were instructed to keep their torso angled, not squared, when dealing with uncertain individuals. This made them smaller targets and protected vital areas while allowing them to move swiftly. The simple act of turning one foot slightly outward and shifting your weight backward was enough to reduce vulnerability. In everyday modern life, angling your body when someone confronts you decreases your exposure and increases your ability to move quickly, reflecting exactly how wartime civilians maintained safety in unpredictable settings. The seventh tactic is the use of momentum over strength, a cornerstone of all World War II civilian combatives. Instead of forcing a movement, civilians were trained to redirect whatever the aggressor initiated. If someone pushed, you pivoted. If someone pulled, you stepped forward. This principle allowed smaller individuals to handle larger attackers without matching power. It's identical to how today's best self-defense systems work, and it can be practiced easily. The next time someone playfully pulls your jacket sleeve, step toward them instead of resisting. You'll feel the shift in control immediately. That's the same principle World War II civilians relied on under far more serious circumstances. The final tactic is the wartime habit of pairing escape with concealment, not confrontation. Civilians weren't trained to win fights. They were trained to break contact and disappear. After disengaging from a grip or creating distance, they immediately moved toward crowds, lighted areas, or patrol routes. The logic was simple. Survival relied on minimizing further risk. Today, it translates to having predetermined safe direction choices whenever you're out, towards security, populated areas, or well-lit streets. It's a quiet, practical adoption of a World War II mindset that remains incredibly effective. These 8 lost tactics come from a time when ordinary people were forced to adopt extraordinary habits. They survived because they relied on awareness, leverage, voice, timing, and intelligent escape, not brute force. If you found this useful and want more deep dives into forgotten survival knowledge from history's most turbulent eras, subscribe to Legacy of Survival and share this video with someone who appreciates real, practical history.